looking inside you? Well then, give us a call and you could be a guest chef on the show Soup to Nuts. That's right, you could be sharing your gastronomic creations with all of us. So give us a call at 881-1653. Or if that's busy, then give us a call at 881-2189. That's right, you could be a guest chef on Soup to Nuts.
My name is Brian Arusi. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Clara Froc, and she's here to cook some cinnamon buns and some sweet rolls, and she's going to be doing all the work today, and I'm just going to be watching and admiring and asking some questions. So here she is.
Thank you, Brian. This is one of my very favorite recipes. It's something that I've done in my family for many years, and we enjoy doing this a lot. I'm working at Countryside Nursing Home, and the old folks over there think it's just great, and this is where I learned to do this exceptionally a lot, and I hope you will enjoy me sharing my recipe with you tonight, or this afternoon. First of all, I'm going to just start the rolls. I have here on the stove 4 cups of milk that is just lukewarm. When you're going to make rolls, you have to remember that your milk should always be just lukewarm. Anybody that has raised children like I have, you realize that your milk should be just warm enough to feel, that you can feel it with your hands, just like you were warming a baby's bottle. I have 4 cups of milk in this pot. It's already warmed, and I'm now going to put in 1 cup of sugar, and we'll stir that in real quick. I've got a very small pot here because I had intended only to do half this recipe, but I'm going to change it to the whole recipe because that's what the recipe calls for. I've now put in a cup of sugar, and I'm going to add 4 tablespoons of yeast. This recipe is really easy to follow because most, as you will see on the recipe, most of it is 1 and 4. We have 4 cups of milk, and then we have 1 cup of sugar and 4 tablespoons of yeast. I'm going to put that in right now. I'm going to just add the yeast into the milk like this. I hope that is okay. You can see that. I'm just putting in the yeast. And you don't ever want to let your milk get too hot. If you let your milk get too hot, what happens?
Burns.
No, it'll kill the yeast.
Oh.
The yeast is actually alive, and so you have to watch that you don't kill the yeast. So, and it will, if your milk is too hot, the yeast will die because it is, of course, it's alive. Okay, now I've got 4 eggs, and I'm going to put it into my mixing bowl here, and I'm going to just give that a quick stir. Okay, we just stir that eggs up. That's good. Okay, and as soon as the yeast starts to become active, you'll notice it'll get really bubbly. And it takes about a couple of minutes to do that. We just have to let that sit just for a minute. It's already starting to grow. I think my milk was a little warmer than I would like to have had it, but that's okay because I'm going to kind of hurry it along a little. It won't hurt it at all. And after your yeast starts to become active, it'll start to get fluffy or bubbly. Have you ever done that before?
No, this is my first experience with yeast, believe it or not.
Okay, really. It's got such a pleasant aroma. Everybody that makes homemade bread or yeast or rolls, you'll find that they learn to love that smell of that yeast starting to become active. Okay, once that yeast becomes active, then we'll just dump that into that. Well, that egg didn't get quite stirred up there. Well, I'm going to do another little beating. That's better. Now we'll put that yeast into that 4 eggs. So right now what we have in my bowl is 4 eggs, 4 cups of milk, 4 tablespoons of yeast, and 1 cup of sugar. Okay. Just gonna get that yeast off of my spoon there a little bit.
Yep, get it all in there.
Okay, I'm gonna let you just set that over there for me. Okay. Now we just give this a little bit of a stir here. Now what we want to do right now is to make a very, very soft dough. So I'm going to just take this flour here. And basically, after you learn to do a lot of cooking, Brian, you will find that you don't have to measure as much as you think you do. I find it very hard to measure things, but you know, when you're starting, you'll have to measure probably at first. But now you start with about 5 cups of flour into that. It will be just about right. And I know exactly about how much 5 cups of flour is, so when you're doing this, Brian, you try to remember to put in 5 cups of flour. And then we make a really soft, mushy dough. It's not a dough really, it's more like a batter. Okay? Spatula. See if you can find me I can just use my spoon that I had here. Where did you?
Yep.
This is fun. It always gets messy and you get it all over the cupboard and everything, but that's all right. You need to clean up after.
That's what the camera crew's for.
Really? Okay, that's great. I'm going to just stop that and put just a little bit more flour because it's still a little bit too runny.
So how many years ago did you start cooking these?
Oh, probably 50 years ago. But basically, I never became a real professional chef until 2 years ago when I retired from my business and went into just cooking for fun. I started cooking at the Countryside Nursing Home just for something to keep me busy, and that's when I really started into becoming a professional chef, which I classify myself as now. Okay, now you can see that's just kind of runny. It's not thick, and it's not like a dough. It's more like a batter. If you were making pancakes, that's about what you'd want it to be, about as thick as what you would make a batch of pancakes. Okay? Now, basically, you could leave that sit just for about 10 minutes. That would give you a time just till you start to see the bubbles starting to come up. When the bubbles start to come up, then 10 minutes would be about the right time. My milk was a little warm, so we don't have to leave it sit that long because the bubbles, as you can see now in the batter, the bubbles are already starting to form. Can you see that?
Yep.
Now, right now I'm going to put in, after that sits for just a minute, and you don't have to hurry it. You can sit 10 minutes, or you can sit 20 minutes, or about basically until you see the bubbles. Now, I've got some oil here, and I'm going to put in 1 cup of oil. That's just any kind of, I just use vegetable oil, right. Just an ordinary vegetable oil. It's just whichever you have. Any brand will do. And 4 teaspoons of salt. Now you notice all of this is 4s or 1s. So it kind of makes the recipe really easy to remember. Yeah. It does. It really is. That's what I found was so interesting about this recipe. I didn't make the recipe up. I got it from my mom, so basically, and now we just give that another quick stir to get that salt and oil mixed in, and let it. Okay. Now what I do here is I go back to the flour. Now I add enough flour again to make it into a batter. Brian, if you can just hand me my big bowl there on the behind you there, that'll be great. Thank you. I'll be doing that in just a jiffy. That's excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Here, have it ready when I do this. I'll start putting more flour, and this will come up to 14 cups of flour is what the recipe calls for. So there you see again is your 14, is your 4 number, so you can remember that. Now you just mix this, and as you mix this, you'll see the beaters will start to get thicker, and you don't want to put any more flour into it than what you really have to. The less flour you can put in it, the better it will be. It starts to get pretty thick pretty quick. I remember when I was a young girl, my mother told me a story once that there was a young farmer that came to, something's happening here, okay, there was a young farmer that came to court the daughter of the family, and he said, will you let me see how you make bread? And the story goes is that as you make bread, this was a big thing amongst the young farmers, young pioneers, and so I show show you when you have it. If you have any crumbs left in the bottom of your pan when you finish, you're not a good cook. I'll show you what I mean when I finish this a little bit here. Put a little bit into the pan.
So that all still equals 14?
All equals 14.
So if somebody was measuring at home,
You would altogether you would be
so
14.
it really doesn't matter if they put it all in that bowl, or can they put, like you just said?
Yeah, I some in the bowl as I'm going along, as long as it ends up to be 14 or less. Okay, we'll just set this out of the way. Now, this is the thing, as you start mixing in, why I put that in the bottom so that it wouldn't be so sticky to the pan. And now you can see that starting to mix up into now we're getting into the real dough. This table is a little high for me. Okay, I'm going to just set it over there, it'll be a little easier. Oh, I just need a little bit. Am I okay here?
Yep.
Am I still okay here? Like this? Okay, now, as soon as I start to get to this point, I take the spoon out and use my hands, and that's the fun part of it. That's what I like best of all, is cooking. Now, this is when you want to make sure that you don't have any flour left in your pan, otherwise you're not going to be a good wife. That's what the story says. If you have any flour left when you're finished cooking. But basically, is try to make your dough as without putting too much flour in. The less flour you can put in, the better it is. Just one more scoop and I've got it done. Okay. And we just knead this a little bit. I'm not always a good cook when it comes to leaving flour in the pan, Brian. But I've already passed the test, so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, you can set the flour back because I'm not going to need any more. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And you just work that, and you keep working that basically just till you get it to that where it's not too sticky. My arms get tired when I do it that high, so I'm going to just set that back here and work it on the cupboard a little bit. I'll just set that over there, and I'm finished with the salt and with the cups as well. Clear my table. Okay, now what we do here is just put it onto your counter and clean your bowl. Now this is what I'm telling you about the flour. See how much is left in there? And the story goes, if you don't have any flour left in there, you're a good cook. So you have to learn that. Learn to be a good cook. And we just let that go a little bit there while I clean my hands, and then we'll just basically, we'll clean out the pan and we'll put some oil in it and then knead this a little bit. If you can let this sit here for a minute or two to start to rise, then that's good. And we'll just take this and clean this pan out here, put some oil in, and then put this back into the dough back into the pan. Just a little bit in here. Okay. Now we'll just when I put this back into here again, we'll just let that, and then we can just set this aside and let it rise, and usually it'll rise for about 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a good time to just give it a good, till it doubles in bulk. It'll actually double in bulk, and we'll let that sit there for a little while now, and we can just take a break while we put the recipe up on the screen.
All right, we're going to flash the recipe for you. When we come back, Clara will show you, not will, she'll show you how to actually construct them. Thank you.
Is there a gourmet chef looking inside you? Well then, give us a call and you could be a guest chef on the show, Soup to Nuts. That's right, you could be sharing your gastronomic creations with all of us.
Right now, Clara's going to continue in her process of making these buns.
Okay, while we were breaking, we let the dough rise. Now, once you let the dough rise, and then you punch it down. You can see now that the dough has risen right to the top, and it's very soft and fluffy. Now you punch that down. This here I've punched down, and I let it rise a second time, and then you punch it down again, and you see there's not very much left in the bottom once you punch that down. It's gone almost. So you actually let it double in bulk, and you punch it down twice. Remember to do that. punch it down. When it comes up the third time, this has already risen up the third time, and I'm ready to start to make the rolls with that. We just dump that out there. Thank you, Brian. And now what you do is you just, I'm going to have to do this long ways because the cupboard's longer this way. It's so fun to play with dough, and if you like to be a kid, it's like playing with plasticine and all that sort of thing. You just roll that out like that, which is very nice, and the dough is very light and soft. And then you just take and you, first of all, I'm going to take and cut that off because I'm going to have way too much here. I'm going to just do half of that right now. We'll just put this over here on the side for a minute. And we'll just bring this back here this way. Okay, we're all right. I forgot what I was doing there for a minute. Okay, now we'll just take a little bit of butter and we'll get this lots of butter on this. This is what makes it really fattening. Right.
That's all right.
That's okay. All right, and then you just take a little bit of brown sugar and you just do the same thing. You just spread that neatly over the top of your roll. Try and get the lumps out.
So you don't measure that because you don't measure
No,
anything.
you don't need to measure this. And there is no measuring for this. You can put as much or as little on as you like. I like a lot because they are called sticky buns. That's what my boss John calls them, as sticky buns. And he just doesn't want to be missing when I make these sticky buns. Okay, and then you be very generous with your cinnamon and sprinkle cinnamon over the top of the brown sugar, just like so. Till you get it nice and brown, and then you roll it up, and you just basically you start at the edge and you just roll this up so, and tuck it in good because that makes them stick together better. And so you just roll that up quickly like that. You don't have to do it quickly, of course. I take as long as I want to do it. Okay, Brian, if you just hand me those pans I have ready, I'll explain what I did here. What I have in the bottom of this pan is I put in quite a lot of butter. I'm generous with the butter, about a good tablespoon of butter in each of the muffin cups. And then I put in another tablespoon of brown sugar, and then I put in chopped nuts on top of that. You don't have to put the chopped nuts in if you don't want to. That makes it more fattening. And then you just cut this into about an inch thick like that, and put them into the roll. The nuts make it really tasty. You can use whatever kind of nuts you want. You can use almonds or walnuts. Basically, I like the walnuts myself, but some people like pecans or whatever. And there, that's already set. Now you let that's ready to rise, and you've got to let that grow again until it fills the pan. Okay, if you just hand me another one, we'll quickly get these out of the way. Thank you. Now in this pan I didn't put in the nuts because I just thought maybe some people are allergic to nuts, so I didn't do them all with nuts. Some I did without nuts. Okay, there we go. All right, there, that's the cinnamon rolls already. Now we'll just set them aside to rise. They take about a half an hour to rise. There's also, I would suggest when you get to this part of the dough, if you want to make just a sweet roll, a hot cross bun, I use the same basic dough, and when it's still in that mushy stage, I put in a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of cloves, and basically your currants, and that makes your hot cross buns. Very good for Easter. Okay, I'm just going to roll out the rest of this dough using the same basic dough. I'm just going to take and grease my pan good. I like to use oil on my pan. Some people like to spray, but I find it's better with the dough, and I'll show you why I like it better. Now you just basically take your little piece of dough and you make it into a roll like that. Would you like to try that, Brian?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. See if you can do that. And just turn it in under till you make a nice smooth roll. And then turn it over. That's why I like to have the oil in that, because it makes your top very smooth.
Which way do you put it?
You just turn it on over like that, and then until you have the top oiled, and then you put that down like that. And after you roll a few thousand of these, then you get to do very well at it. you do better at it. But do you want to try another one? It's fun to play with.
I'll try one more.
Okay, there you go. Just turn the edges all in under. And it doesn't matter. They still grow to be nice little buns anyway, no matter how you do it. So we'll just do it like that. Good job. Okay, I'll just quickly do these here. And then what we do, I have some already that are made in the oven, and we'll just cut for a minute while we take those out of the oven, and we'll let you all see what the finished product looks like.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to show you the finished product, and we'll be back shortly.
Good.
Thousands of women will lose a child to AIDS simply because they didn't get an HIV test when they were pregnant. You see, there's now treatment that can help stop the spread of HIV from mother to baby, which gives children of HIV-infected mothers something they never had before: a chance. If you're pregnant, please get an HIV test.
Hi, welcome back. We're ready to take them out, and it smells pretty good in here.
Okay, our rolls are all finished. It takes about 25 to 30 minutes. There we have our cinnamon rolls. I'll just set them over there. And here I have the pan of the sweet rolls and the plain rolls. And then I have a pan of just plain rolls, and they're all ready to come out of the oven. There we go. After your cinnamon rolls come out of the oven, you want to remember to quickly take them out of the pan. What I usually do is take a piece of tin foil and immediately turn them upside down like that on a piece of tin foil, because you want your butter and brown sugar and syrup to run down into the cinnamon rolls. So those are fine. These are okay. You don't have to turn them upside down. But always remember to turn your cinnamon rolls upside down quickly. And then after they cool a little bit, you can just take them out of the pan. They don't stick, and there they go. And there they are, already done. Okay, come on here. There we are, and they're all done, and they look just great. Now the sweet rolls, the ones that I put the cinnamon and the raisins in, I just usually quickly take when they start to get just warm and put a little bit of icing on them like that, just to make them a little sweeter. And there you have your sweet rolls, all done with your raisins in like that. These are just plain rolls that you can use for whatever you want to, dinner rolls, or a lot of times I make hot dog rolls and hamburger buns out of these, and they're really delicious. I hope you enjoyed that.
We had a great time. We'd like to thank you for all watching, and we'd like to thank Clara for coming on and doing a great job with all these rolls. And now I get to eat one, and you guys get to drool a little bit. So next time, we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Officer Scott Romer from the Ashland Police Department.
And I'm Peter Stone from the Ashland Fire Department.
We're here today to talk to you about emergency response vehicles. Massachusetts Motor Vehicle Law, Chapter 89, Section 7 and 7A covers emergency response vehicles. Emergency response vehicle would be any fire truck or fire apparatus, any police patrol vehicle, or any ambulance. What you're required to do as an operator of a motor vehicle is to yield to the right-of-way on any street, way, lane, or alley. It's a concern of ours regarding responding to emergency calls. And what this law requires is that every operator of a vehicle shall immediately drive as far as right as possible to the right-hand curb or side of the road and shall remain at a standstill until such emergency vehicle has passed.
And the importance of this, especially with the ambulance apparatus in response to the hospital, is this allows a really smooth and safe transport to the hospital with the less swerving and trying to pull through traffic. And the same applies with the fire apparatus. It's large and bulky, and it's important that vehicles in both directions pull over and stop to allow us to safely get through the traffic.
So please remember, you are required to pull to the side of the road and remain at a standstill until such emergency vehicles do pass by. Oftentimes, an operator will put on the directional and reduce their speed, but they don't actually pull over enough to allow safe passage of these emergency response vehicles. Anybody who willfully or intentionally obstructs the passage of any emergency vehicle is subject to a fine of up to $100 and or imprisonment in the jail or house of correction for up to 3 months. Thank you very much.
We appreciate the courtesy you show us in your driving through the streets of Ashland.
Drive safely.
To have a dream, but never the chance to achieve it. That is perhaps the greatest tragedy in life. The United Negro College Fund exists to bring the dreams of thousands of young people within reach. Hands that yearn to touch lives. We train to heal, to teach, to bless. We encourage souls that hear music to write symphonies and sing anthems. And to those once bound by poverty, we present a wealth of possibilities. When you support the United Negro College Fund, you give more than money. You give dreams that may have died, the power to live.
Support the United Negro College Fund. A mind is a terrible thing to waste.